There's a train that comes from Namibia and Malawi. There's a train that comes from Zambia and Zimbabwe. There's a train that comes from Angola and Mozambique, from Lesotho, from Botswana, from Swaziland, from all the hinterlands of southern and central Africa. This train carries young and old African men who are conscripted to come and work on contract in the gold and mineral mines of Johannesburg and its surrounding metropoli. 16 hours or more a day for almost no pay. Deep, deep, deep down in the belly of the earth, when they are digging and drilling for that shiny, mighty, evasive stone, or when they dish that mishmash food into their iron plates with the iron shovel.
Sanibonani. Ngosibuzo Sithole lo. Ngibingelele emagumbeni amane omhlaba, ngibingelele wona ntombi yona nsizwa. Wena ngane nawe gogo. Kodwa ke asikho lapho. Nayi indaba. Esikhathini esinje ngisebenza embonini njengamanje ngisasebenza nje. Kukhona lapho ngike ngathola khona ithuba lokuthi ngibe i-shop steward. I-shop steward ke umfikeli wabasebenzi ngaphakathi embonini. Ngifunde lapho ngikhula nomsabalazo. Kodwa kungiphathe kabuhlungu ngitholile ukuthi abantu abaningi abasebenzi nabangaphansi kwenyunyane abaningi impela abazi ngamalungelo abo. Ngitholile ukuthi ama-shop steward ayazi ngamalungelo abo ngoba wona buyabe nesikhathi sokuhamba ayofunda, afunde ngamalungelo abo. Kodwa mase fika la exaxwa inkinga esikhona zabasebenzi bese addressa ngendlela abayi-addressa ngayo, kodwa ke kungekho ukuthi khona la bazofunda khona ukuthi yini ilungelo lakhe, libekelweni ilungelo lakhe. So I took a stand to teach or to make people understand the act that regulates in the industry. There are many companies who are still got strong pillars of apartheid where workers are discriminated, they got unfair treatment, unequally opportunities, they got exploits, and they dismiss unfairly. My wish is only not to keep this knowledge with myself. So I throw my voice to all medias, scripters, scripts writers, social communication, series producers, film writer, to work together in disclosing the information. Basebenzi, nibheke kahle lento. You are the backbone of the country economy. In these days, too many problems. A pandemic after pandemic. We are busy, even our parliament busy, dealing with the issues which is pandemic in this country. I think maybe all over the world. We find ourselves embarked in strike, violence, protests, job losses, high crimes. We even lose the unity that lead us to collapsing of our economy. Umnotho as we are. Okay, what are we doing about this? We are the people who produce products. We are the most participants in development of our country economy. I think we can save this world. Currently, there are too many problems. One of them, our farmers are facing a very violent situation. our farmers are playing a very important role in increasing the exports rather than imports. But they are facing the issue of violence. The main reason is that most farmers does not adopt trade unions. When it coming to the companies like agents, we've been fighting with privatization, but we never succeed. We've seen some privatized company exploiting our rights, exploiting the rights of our fellow workers. Now it's turned to the point to deal with these issues. Let's raise the point to the country legislation to amend trade unions compulsory in all workplaces. This act must work on top of the existing acts. Let's take a look at the existing acts. Which are those? BCEA, that's Basic Conditions of Employment Act 75 of 1997. LRA, that's Labor Relation Act 66 of 1995. EEA, that's Employment Equity Act 55 of 1998. SD, that's Skill Development Act 97 of 1998. Let's follow this act using as the overall guiding principles. The Basic Conditions of Employment Act is to give an effect to the right to fair labor practice as referred to in the country constitution. The act is in place to regulate the basic conditions of employment and doing so ensure that the country complies with the act duties placed upon it as member state of the International Labour Organization. Which are those labor practices? Time, working time. The interpretation of the day is 8 hours, include the rest period and meal intervals. 5 days a week, weekly days. 45 hours in a week. There are extra hours that are negotiable. Negotiable extra hours in terms of extra payment, such like working night shifts, Sunday pay, maternity leave. Let's proceed to another labor practice under basic conditions of employment. The remuneration. The employees should be informed by the employer about the criteria which is relation, particular of employment concerned with remuneration and wages. These include a written particular employment, information employee of their right, keep of record, deduction and other act concerning remuneration and wages. Let's proceed to another labor practice. The termination. This is between the employer with their employer organization and the employee with their representatives such as Shostwat or anybody in particular. if it's possible. The employer has to provide under the rules guiding to the termination of employment, such as notice of termination of employment payment instead of notice, payment of termination, severance pay, and a certificate of service. We move on to our labor practice under the basic conditions of employment. There are things that is prohibited. Prohibition of employer of children under the age of 15. That's prohibition of forced labor. Any employer knows that. If he doesn't know, that is totally wrong. We proceed to the variation of basic conditions of employment. These variations are subjected to agreement between the employer and employees. Prohibited. Prohibition of employer of children under the age of 15. That prohibition of forced labor. Any employer knows that. If he doesn't know, that is totally wrong. We proceed to the variation of basic conditions of employment. These variations are subjected to agreement between the employer and employees. Monitoring, enforcement, and legal proceedings. There will be process of monitoring enforcement to ensure that compliance with this legislation is happening. Failure to comply with this, the implication for the employer. The employers can take the matter to the dispute, such as CCMA. If the matter is not resolved, can proceed to a labor court. Let's proceed to another act. The Act LRA, as Labor Relation Act, is the Labor Relating Act is amended to promote the economic development, social justice, labor peace, and democracy in the workplace. This is done through the development of the framework for regulating the relation between the employees and the employer, with trade union, the employee, and the employer with the employer organization. These two parties must settle the matter before go through application, adjudication, or industrial action by cancellation. This right contained in the Constitution. These two parties has to bargain collectively in their practicing the right to fair labor practice, such as joining the union, joining the employer organization, to organize and bargain collectively, freedom of association, protection of strike, lockouts, workplace forum, dispute solution, unfair dismissal. Let's go with the purpose. The purpose of this act is to give effect to the following: provision of the Constitution with the relating act, Labor Act. The Constitution, Section 27, give the right to fair labor practice, collective bargaining unit process. Let's proceed under Labor Relating Act. Recognition of organization right of trade unions. The employees has a right to freedom of association in participating in the forum of trade unions, joining trade unions subject to the union constitution, to participate in lawful activities of the union, such as election of the office bearers. We proceed under the Labor Relations Act. Number 3, promote and facilitate collective. At the sectoral level, trade unions are entitled to enter the employer premises for their member solutions. The union officials wish to meet with the employer must send a written note to request a meeting and complied by the union registration accompanied by the union registration certificate. The employer must respond within 30 days of receipt of the letter, include a collective agreement. Okay, we can proceed. How about the registered trade union? Registered trade union and employer organization, they must come together to form a bargaining council for particular sector through the adoption of a constitution, which is that constitution is S30, and registration as a bargaining council under section 29. We proceed to the promotion of employment, particular participation in a decision making through the establishment of the workplace forum. Okay, let's look through the establishment of the participation in decision making of the workplace. There should be a forum. The forum must seek to promote the interest of all employees in the workplace, to improve, to work with the employer, to reach the consensual agreement on the matters relation to the workplace. We go on with Labor Relating Act. Number 6, regulating the right to the strike and the recourses to lockout in conformity with the Constitution. The employees has a right to strike, oppose the unresolved matters. These come into effect if the issue is in dispute has been referred further in terms of the Act. The dispute has to issue the certificate stating the matter remaining unresolved to the employer. There is a period of 30 days given, and if the period is elapsed, the employer has to reply in 48 hours in written note to the employee and a trade union. We go on with another act. This act is EEA, that's Employment Equity. Employment Equity Act 55 of 1998. The employment equity for achievement of equality in the workplace, to eliminate the legacy of apartheid, to do away unfair discrimination, to promote equality opportunity, fair treatment. This act is given an effect in promoting these modules. Skill Development Act of 97 S97 of 1998, Skill Development Levies Act 9 of 1999, then the Country Authority Act, South Africa is SAQA, South African Qualification Authority Act 58 of 1995. When we're coming with next chapters, we're gonna deal with skill development up to levies. It's a huge chapter that needs understanding. I thank you.